My people, comrades and friends, welcome to another episode of The Week with me, Comrade Fatso. And it's been a crazy week as Team Zanu PF showed they were ready to fight the climate crisis by buying crates of zvibhodoro. Chiwenga leaked pics of a sick VP, and we caught up with the former president of the ZCTU, Comrade Mtasa. But first, ED showed how much he cared about the environment by flying to the COP26 Climate Summit in a private jet that cost taxpayers nearly 1 million. And not 1 million bond, my comrades, 1 million USA. Yes, at a time when we all need to be cutting our carbon emissions, ED hires a Z Airbus that costs an average of over $400,000 to hire to do just a one-way trip from Harare to Glasgow. Plus, it flew empty all the way from Belarus to Harare just to pick him up. Do Inonzi going green. After spending so much of the people's chibans to get there, ED finally addressed a packed auditorium at COP26. Okay, there were at least some heads of state there. Alright, there were at least 3 cleaners in the building to hear what he said. But we do have proof that ED actually met President Biden. I mean, who wouldn't trust Nick Mangwana's photography? But then someone shared this photo. Okay, so ED wasn't actually talking to Biden, but I'm sure he overheard and eavesdropped some good tips. A whole president was being like that hovering guy at a cocktail with no nyayas, who you try and avoid by dashing to the samosas. Ah yes. Over the last week, ZCTU President Mtasa agarakashwa, controversially, as he was defeated at the ZCTU Congress by his challenger, Florence Taruvinga, with allegations swirling that she's a Zanu PF puppet bankrolled by none other than Tagbire. We caught up with Mtasa to hear his views on the changes at the ZCTU, the plight of the working class, and what's next for him. Comrades and friends, we're joined today by a very special guest, the former president of the ZCTU, Comrade Mtasa. Comrade, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Comrade Fatso, and thank you for inviting me. You are the first person to interview the retired general.
Hey, we've got you fresh, comrade. Fresh from defeat, unfortunately, but let's get straight into it. So yeah. You're fresh from the ZCTU conference. You lost to your challenger, Florence Taruvinga, and the allegations that Florence Taruvinga is a Zanu PF plant who was sponsored to the tune of 30 million by Tagbire. Are these allegations true?
Well, as a matter of principle, I can't speak and talk about Florence or any other ZCTU leader or activist or cadre without them getting an opportunity to respond. Mm-hmm. So it is it's not possible that I talk to people about them when they are not here and when they are not able to respond for themselves. Mm-hmm. So I don't know whether those allegations are correct or not. Mm-hmm. But what I know is we were in a contest, and unfortunately or fortunately, I couldn't manage to succeed.
Mm-hmm. So what about allegations that you actually started the rumors about Florence being a Zanu PF puppet so you could tarnish her image ahead of the elections?
No. Those allegations did not emerge from us. They didn't even emerge from our campaign team. Our campaign team had a very clear message that we need to make sure that we reject and resist capture of the ZCTU. And this was not targeted at any particular person. It was out of our experiences. We had been resisting ZCTU capture and cooptation since 2016, and especially after the 2019 January demonstrations. Zanu PF has been approaching our leaders, They approached me, they wanted to offer me farms or mining claims. We rejected and resisted that. So we're talking about something that we know. We're talking about something that we knew was happening in our organization. I'd been chairing the General Council of ZCTU, where some comrades were getting information out, confidential information to the CIO, where some comrades were taking photos of us in General Council, taking our resolutions to the CIO. So I was very clear, and our campaign team was very clear, that the most important thing that we needed to fight was to fight against the capture of the ZCTU by the state, and that was not targeted at any particular person, but we were talking about the institution.
Okay, but if the ZCTU has now been captured by Zanu PF, then what is the future of working class struggles for decent jobs and a living wage?
Oh, that will be a disaster if it happens that way. We have heard Zanu PF patriots talking about that and celebrating my defeat. We have also heard George Charamba, popularly known as Jamwanda 2 on Twitter, expressly stating that they engineered my defeat, and he specifically said Zanu PF liberated the ZCTU from Peter. So we don't know what that means. Is it true or is it false? If it is true, that will be disastrous, because the biggest enemy of the working class in this country is the government, and the government of Zanu PF. And we have seen how it has devalued labor in this country. Workers are now working in conditions that are reminiscent of the colonial era conditions. Doctors, nurses, they are all failing to buy food. They are failing to pay for rentals, school fees, and even to pay for transport. Teachers are walking to school, doctors, nurses are walking to work, people are in misery. So it will be disastrous if we do not have an independent ZCTU or an independent labor movement in this country. The ZCTU has been playing a very big role beyond the labor market. It has been the voice for the civic society, the leader for the civic society. It has spoke for people, the peasants in the villages who are losing land to Chinese. It has spoken for the girl child. It has spoken for the women. It has been speaking for the democracy and democratization of this country. And we are still under bondage. Without voices of reason and without speaking truth to power, we are not going to likely get our freedom early and easy. So we need an independent ZCTU, and we hope what Zanu PF and government officials are saying is not going to materialize.
But do you think you weren't booted out of ZCTU because you're pushing an MDC alliance agenda? There are allegations about that.
Comrade Fatso, you know they term you MDC agent. You know they term journalist, any journalist, Mdudu's, Hopewell Chingono, MDC and Western Puppets. You know they term students, Ngazuore and Chirigas, NAS students, MDCA. They term women who are fighting for women's rights, MDC appendage. They term the people in Matebeleland who are seeking closure to the Gukura Wound massacre. They term them regime change agents. They've called us terrorists because we're fighting for workers' rights. So look at it this way. I've been brutalized and arrested many times, but look at the issues that we were arrested for. In 2018, we were arrested for demanding that we do not need austerity measures. We don't need the 2% tax. Is that an issue for MDCA? I don't think so. We're also arrested for demanding that we need a living wage. Are those not purely issues for the working class? They are working class issues. In 2019, when we went on demonstration after the increases in fuel prices, we were not sent by anyone. We were talking about the cost of living that was going up regularly. And all the issues that we've been brutalized for, we've been abducted, our families have been, members have been abducted, we've been jailed, we have been poisoned, and we have people who have appeared in court facing treason. All of those charges, There's nothing speaking about regime change. Of course, we are an independent organization. The labor movement is an important stakeholder in the democratic structure and the framework of the country. We are not proscribed from demanding justice. We are not proscribed from demanding a particular party to rule or to fight against a particular party, for in this instance Zanu PF, to lose power. We are allowed. But in all the issues that we're talking about working class issues. Tell me, Comrade Fadzo, who in this country, where is that happy worker? If we may go around the country, visit hospitals and talk to nurses, visit classes and talk to teachers, visit NRZ and talk to locomotive drivers, visit banks and talk to bank clerks and supermarkets. Is there any worker who is happy about the Zanu PF policies towards the working class? No, people are not happy. So we are expressing ourselves. It's unfortunate that the other camp said, I'm talking on behalf of MDC. The other camp said, I'm more closer to the MDC. I'm closer to freedom. I'm closer to justice. I'm closer to human rights. I'm closer to social justice. I'm closer to rule of law. So I'm not apologetic about what we did during our tenure. We fought and we put a dent to the dictatorship. It's still standing, and hopefully the new team will finish it off.
Comrade Mtasa, now that you're no longer in the leadership of ZCTU, what does the future hold? I mean, do you want to be like Rocky and get a brand new career from a blesser like Passion Java? Do you sing, Baba?
Yeah, I sing, but I sing praises to the Lord. So I'll continue singing in church and leading praise and worship in church, but not going to a studio and not being under Java production, obviously.
But why, boss? Passion Java, if you join his stable, you can get Kofi Olomide to feature on a song just for
no,
you. Kofi Olomide in
patata, no, patata. I will try something else. So I've got serious. I've been thinking about this seriously. I knew definitely one day I will be leaving ZCTU, and I'm not surprised by the denigration from Zanu PF, the celebration from Zanu PF. Zanu PF doesn't understand democracy. They don't understand that leaders must come and do their part and live and support others to pursue the agenda. So for Zanu PF, elections are a do or die game. They retain power by all means. That's why we still have the dark past, the Gukura-Undi, the 2007 political violence, long sleeve, short sleeve, and many other political violence atrocities that have been perpetrated by Zanu PF in this country. They don't believe in democracy. They don't understand the need to leave power. So we are unlike them. I was very much prepared to leave one day. I'm still thinking, I'm still consulting family, I'm still consulting my friends, I'm still consulting the broader society. ZCTU and ZCTU leadership will lead the broader society. So you can't make decisions without thorough consultations. I've got a number of options. Some are pushing me into politics. I don't think I'm a politician. If I were a politician and could play data, I could have won this election. So I don't think I'm a politician. I think I'm a social justice activist. I'm probably going to be in that field and pushing in that field. Leadership is not about a particular role. Leadership is about your ideas and how you can express them and manage to inspire and to have people following your idea and your cause. So I think if I look at politics, there are few politicians that are following a particular cause. The majority of politicians are pursuing power. So I may not be easily fit in that environment, and it's a cutthroat environment. I don't think I may easily fit in that, but maybe pursue social justice activism. I am also keen in utilizing my experience in imparting knowledge to students, so I may get into academia. Maybe it's time for a PhD and take a sabbatical leave and gain knowledge and come back, utilize my experience and also the book knowledge and impart knowledge. But what I'm not going to stop is to continue speaking truth to power. I'm also not going to stop to demand democracy, to demand justice and equity. So the celebrations from Zanu PF and George Charamba and team may be short-lived. we have got something on the sleeve.
Okay, interesting. So on that subject of social justice and politics, do you actually really see any difference between the economic policies of Zanu PF and the economic policies of the MDC Alliance? I mean, ultimately, at their core, are they both not neoliberal parties? Neoliberal parties that would bring about economic systems that benefit the elite, that are about top-down economics, IMF, World Bank, chi, versus what you stand for and what many of the working class stand for, which is pro-poor economics focused on social justice and a living wage. Do you really see a difference between the two main political parties in terms of economic ideology?
Right, so the major difference is that the one has been tested, the other one has not been given an opportunity. I'm inclined to socialism, obviously, because of my leftist and ideology and what I believe is justice. Justice to me is redistributive justice. So I'm yearning for a time where in this world we have socialism, but I'm also not confined to dogma and just theory. I am alive to the realities that in the world the socialism is not there. What is ruling is free markets. So I'm not expecting a new government in this country to come and be the only island of socialism within a big sea of brute capitalism. No, that will not happen probably in our lifetime, but we continue to fight. So we don't think that in terms of free market economics, there's much difference between Zanu PF and MDC. But it is how they will implement it that I believe will be different. Zanu PF has gone beyond the usual capitalism. It has now dived down into crony capitalism, where every sector has to be controlled by its cronies. You are talking about Tagwire, controlling petroleum, controlling banks. Now they are selling and buying assets of NASA and putting them into one family, into same people. So that is capitalism that we should never accept, and that is Zanu PF. Zanu PF can kill to maintain that wealth, and that is Zanu PF. I don't think a new government, whether it's MDC or any other government that will come after Zanu PF, will quickly pursue that such policies. So the difference will be on whether on the environment that party will bring. So if you look at MDC, they are talking about constitutionalism, they are talking about rule of law, they are talking about independence of institutions. Any government that comes in this country and address those aspects, despite its neoliberal economic policies, will make life better for Zimbabweans. Our lives are miserable not simply because of neoliberalism. People are flocking to America, they are flocking to UK, Zimbabweans are flocking to South Africa, Botswana. They are neoliberal economies. They are flocking there because there is freedom, there is constitutionalism, there is good standards of life. So we can still attain better standards of life in a neoliberal economy run by another government, but we can't attain that under a dictatorship, especially the dictatorship of Zanu PF. The dictatorship of Zanu PF is aiming for one thing, not just retention of power, but also to ensure that they amass wealth, that they pillage the resources of this nation. And that is the difference that we see between Zanu PF and any other party that has not been tested. But the major difference is the other one has been tested. It has put us in misery, in poverty. 50% of the population is in poverty, in extreme poverty. Over 72% of the population is in poverty. 61% of the people are food insecure. 76% of our jobs are informal, just scrounging for a living, scavenging for a living, and those are the jobs that we have. So Zanu PF has been fully tested. It is brutal, it is predatory. They are amassing wealth at an alarming rate. They are taking everything to the few families. We can talk of few families, 5 or 6 families, that will eventually be controlling everything in this country. So that is not on.
So, comrade, now we're going to play multiple choice, which I'm sure you remember from your exam days.
Grade 7.
Yeah, from grade 7. Eh? Those grade 7 with ZCTU.
Yeah.
So it's multiple choice, either or. Eh? So it'll be either one or the other. So your first question: Winky D or Enzo Aishal?
Gaffer. Gaffer for real. We are conscious. We are very conscious. Ijipita, Kasonke Jecha, Njema, that's the message we want to go out there. People are in bondage, and we respect our prophets, those who sing freedom, those who sing democracy and prosperity. So Gaffer for you.
Ahoy. Okay, your second multiple choice question: Karl Marx or Adam Smith?
Oh, it's given. I'm not seeing the invisible hand. I'm seeing men in camouflage. I'm seeing men holding guns dictating the market. I'm seeing grenades. I'm seeing baton sticks at Chikurubi, their support unit. I'm seeing canisters, tear gas canisters controlling the market, making sure that workers suffer and work for nothing, whilst a few are reaping super profits. So Adam Smith out. Karl Marx is the only prophet for the poor. Whatever he said is happening. The class conflict, we are seeing it. We are seeing the degeneration of the market economy, where people are no longer worried about the many billions that are sleeping hungry, where people are not worried about kids failing to access food around the globe, kids dropping out of school. People are amassing wealth. During a global pandemic, COVID-19, the billionaires made more billions, whilst everyone was locked and tagged out in lockdowns and suffering without food. So Karl Marx is the prophet of the poor.
All right. Your third and last multiple choice question: Sir Wicknell or Themba Mlisa?
Who is Wicknell? I only heard about him when we were fighting at ZESA, when we were fighting corruption with the ZESA unions, that he got a lot of money and he delivered nothing. I've not seen him in the ghetto with the poor. I've seen Themba. I've been with Themba at Sunny Feng fighting for the workers' rights. So Themba is a natural choice. Themba Mliswa. I know people have got some misgivings with Themba, but I've my own choices between the two, and I've worked with him fighting for people's rights. So despite what others fight against him, fights with him, I think between the two, Themba Mliswa is above the rest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we get into our next round. Now this, you just say the first thing that comes to your mind when I say a name. Okay. So the first thing that comes to your mind, it's like one or two words. Chete. Maybe one word.
One word.
Okay. One word. The first word that comes to your mind. Okay. Ntuli Ngube.
Exploiter.
Trickle down economics.
Nonsense.
George Charamba.
that one.
One word can't capture.
No, that one needs a sentence. But anyway, a dictatorship mouthpiece.
So now coming to our final question. Obviously, the labor movement was instrumental in the formation of the MDC back in '99. The labor movement, the students, and so forth. But social forces have changed so much, over the last, decade plus. So looking at it now, is the labor movement still as important and as vibrant as it was back then? And looking forward to the struggle for Zimbabwean democratic forces, do you not think there's need for a new consensus, a new convergence that also brings together the new social forces that maybe didn't exist back then, the vendors, the rural teachers, and so forth?
Yeah, so the best way to analyze this, it's a political economy analysis, is to go back into history. The labor movement didn't form MDC only. It formed ZAPU, it formed ZANU. So the liberation of this country was organized by the working class. Joshua Nkomo, Benjamin Burombo, Msipas, those were working class comrades. So it was at a particular time when the labor movement realized that they can no longer continue to fight for the so-called bread and butter only, but they need to broaden their horizon and fight for freedom, fight against subjugation, fight for independence. So that's where the labor movement started. The first nationalist parties were formed by trade unionists and were led by trade unionists. So that has not changed. And if you look again back to history, there were very few people in employment. The majority of our people were in the reserves. Women were not allowed to work. Nowadays, we've got women at work. The young people were not in employment. They were they were unemployed and in reserves. Now we have many of our people in the cities, in urban areas. So we cannot have an excuse, because back then in the 1940s, Joshua Nkomo, Benjamin Burombo would organize mass stayaways and shut down Harare and Bulawayo and the whole country. So there were very few workers, but what they had was the idea, what they had was the dedication and commitment to fight for their freedom. So nowadays we are actually fortunate. When Benjamin Burombo and Nkomo were fighting, they didn't even have social media. They didn't have WhatsApp. They didn't have Twitter. They probably were using bicycles to spread the message. And we have, on a stroke of a moment, we can spread the message around the country. The only thing that they had was ideology. They were very clear. They had got ideological clarity. The other thing that they also had, they were very clear in their messaging. So now the labor movement, people who are employed in this country, according to the statistics of the state, they are over 2.9 million, 2.925 million. That cannot be compared with the few hundreds or tens of thousands that were employed during the Joshua Nkomo era. So the labor movement still has a lot of capital and a lot of resources within it, which we can use and to fight. But what we need to do is to address the nagging problems. The first one is, are we very clear about our ideology? So we need to address that. What is the ideology of the working class? We still have many challenges. We also need to address the problem. What is the problem? I hear some of the allegations that were labeled against me was that I was politicizing the movement. And I think that is coming from people who don't understand the labor movement. The labor movement is a political organization. We are solely formed to build political power for workers so that they can match the political power of Zanu PF, MDCA, MDCs, APA, and the like, any party in government, and also match the political power of the business. Businesses have got resources, they've got political power, they determine who rules. The only power that workers have is to come together and use their collective power to protest, to demonstrate, and to vote. So that is what a trade union is about. We are building political power. It's a political organization. And again, politics is who gets what, when, and how, according to Harold Laswell. So if we are demanding redistribution of resources, if we are demanding better salaries, we are already naturally politicians. So we still need to clearly state what the problem we have in Zimbabwe is. For me, the problem is dictatorship. We are just the same as the problem we had under colonial rule. We need to free ourselves from the bondage of dictatorship. And that we have not agreed. So we need to agree. And we need also to agree on who is perpetuating it. I will be saddened if I see an ordinary worker putting an X on Zanu PF in an election and then come to the union and say you are not doing enough. The workers have to understand that all their problems are coming from the political decisions and the political decisions of a Zanu PF government. So we haven't agreed on that. But that is not to say we don't have the power. We've got the power. We are just not properly organized. We are not properly mobilized. We have not come up with a clear analysis of our problem. We've also not clearly put out a message that unites all of us. Yes, I will definitely respect a person and a worker who votes for Zanu PF. It's their political rights, constitutional rights, but I will be questioning myself, what has gone wrong with the youths of today that Joshua Nkomo and Benjamin Brombo saw and made some action, that Morgan Tsvangirai and Gibson Sibanda realized and took up action. I will be asking myself, what can motivate a teacher who is earning less than $100 to put an X on Zanu PF? What can motivate a doctor who was earning 2,400 during Mugabe's era to put an X on Zanu PF whilst earning $200? I'll ask myself, why should a domestic worker who is now earning 9 loaves of bread, $9, 9 loaves of bread, or an agricultural worker who is now earning 12 loaves of bread for the whole month, how and what can motivate that person to put an X on people who are making political decisions that have put us in bondage, in misery, and in poverty? So, Comrade Fatso, we still have that power. What we need is clarity of thought, clarity in terms of ideology, organizing better, mobilizing better. We have also taken a deliberate move to infuse the trade union because of job retrenchments and the like. ZCTU is no longer those you see wearing ties or overalls going to work. It is now in the community. We are now doing social trade unionism or community trade unionism. This is why you see we do our activities in the ghetto, in the communities, in town halls. Because the people who have lost employment, they are in the ghetto. The people who are unemployed, they are in the ghetto. So we have that power if we properly organize the citizens and lead the citizens. We are in a much far better position than Morgan Tsvangirai and Sibanda, than Benjamin Borombo, than Joshua Nkomo and others. We can win this struggle. We need to sacrifice. We need to be organized.
Well, thanks, Comrade. I think with those words, it brings us to the end of the interview, but thanks very much for joining us on the week.
Shinga mshandi shinga.
We now cross over to Munya with some breaking news.
Right, thank you so much, Comrade. Right, in this week's breaking news, the Apostolic Christian Council of Zimbabwe found time this week to draft a letter to the government protesting the abhorrent permission of a homosexual to enter the country. Proving simply once again that there is nothing more that the church hates than two consensual people enjoying the natural act of sex. Unless, of course, it's, one of them's a 12-year-old and then the other one's so shriveled up they look like two knee hanging together, then, of course, that's fine. That's not a sin. That's not a problem at all. What's interesting is that even though there are domestic allegations in play, like domestic abuse allegations in play, those are completely irrelevant to the protest because, of course, why would we deny entry to somebody who simply took part in what at this point is a cultural mainstay and national pastime? It's like if local universities decided to demand STI screenings at the back of your application for admission. There'd be no one left. Who would be at NAST? Who would be there? There'd be no one left. And it's interesting because this kind of contradictory thinking has just sort of descended, and it makes sense as part of the system because when white people came and taught us Christianity, they taught us that it was demonic and satanic to worship, really just communicate and pray to our ancestors instead of directly to God. But in the same breath, those people started their prayers with Hail Mary instead of, as you'd expect, Dear historically and geographically impossible white Jesus, why did you create the gays and the blacks? They are disgusting abominations that must be converted or eradicated. Your gracious servant, hashtag peace to all as you said, hashtag let them burn in hell, in your white lovely name, amen. It's interesting, but it is what it is. It's a bit pick and choosy, kind of like COVID regulations and Zim. Like they don't apply unless your event has like a certain amount of Range Rovers and Fortuners, and then suddenly it's not a problem. Unless you happen to be driving or in Remo's Range Rover, then anyway, that's it for this week's report and breaking news. Thank you so much. Back to you, Comrade.
Thanks for that report, Munya. With our Hurment now at COP26, we thought it was only right to offer them some advice about what they should be doing instead of buying trolleys of Glenfiddich. Then here are 5 climate demands. We need $100 billion for climate finance every year for countries in the global south. and it's the rich countries who must cough up. The rich countries are the most guilty for climate change. You must demand that they halve their emissions over the next decade. We need a global tax on fossil fuels to make it not worth the while of corporations to keep on polluting. We need a pathway to a just green transition to sustainable economies in Africa. The brutal fact is that we need a new economics that's not based on endless growth and destruction of the planet. We now cross over to the weather report with Tinai.
How bad could the future be if we do not address climate change? Well, it can get real bad. It can lead to rise in extreme temperatures, threatening human and animal life. It can lead to rise in sea levels, causing loss of farmland. And finally, it can also lead to presidents addressing empty auditoriums. This is exactly what happened in Glasgow on Tuesday. See, when Uhuru Kenyatta, the president of Kenya, was addressing delegates at COP26 Summit, it was packed, it was greener, the weather was nice. And when the president of a certain country goes on the podium, all of a sudden, there was a drought. Look at this famine, comrade. These are effects of climate change. You see, we hear our reports from ZBC, our trusted source from ZBC are telling us the room was hot. So people had to leave, going to their hotel rooms, contrary to social media reports that people did not want to listen to the president. No, climate change is real, comrade. This president is loved by everyone all over the world, but we need, see, look at this famine, look at this heat wave that was in the room, so no one could stay here. You understand? Back home, let's now take a look at our weekly focus. We are expecting the exchange rate temperatures to continue going up. As you can see here, a few months ago, $1 was equals to 83 bond, and now months later, $1 is equals to 98. So we're expecting it to go up and up, maybe up until December. You're not going to shake up 100. And I understand some people might be asking, weatherman, how is this related to the weather? So let me explain. See, if the exchange rate goes up, prices will also go up. And if prices go up, then back to you, comrade, in the studio.
Thanks, Tinai. But I don't think it was climate change that caused the empty auditorium. But yeah, thanks for joining us on The Week. Follow Magama TV on social media. I've been Comrade Fatso. You have been the people. This has been The Week. Thank you and foot tech.